John.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Hello, Susan.
Matilda, um, Liz is
Good
coming in here at 2
afternoon.
o'clock. 2 o'clock.
It's a
Elizabeth,
great day. I'm President Joyce
bring you some
Montgomery
soup.
with a year of inspired action.
John, mute
We want to
yourself.
acknowledge the recent passing of two former members, Steve Waldrop, who joined in 2007, and David Rakes, who joined in 2009. We are sending around a card for Melissa Woodson, who is recovering from oral surgery. Wait till you see the card. It's kind of cute. John picked it out. So, yeah, it'll give you a chuckle when it comes around. Our call for introspection today and our Pledge of Allegiance is Preston Tyler.
Good afternoon. January is National Wellness Month, and I've been saving this from since Monday. I've been excited to tell y'all since Monday. I met this guy at the Martin Luther King breakfast, and he came to me. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "I'm doing better than expected." And I said, "Why are you doing better than expected?" And he said, "You said something to my brother some months ago, and you didn't even know the impact that you did when you said it to him." I said, "Well, who is your brother?" He said, "Don't worry about that. You'll figure it out later." And he said, "You said in Bible study one time that you ought to call somebody whenever they come across your mind because you never know, just a phone call can make an impact on somebody's life. You don't know what somebody's going through. And just hearing somebody's voice can make a difference in a person's life." He said, "I haven't spoke to my brother in 20 years." He said, "But my other brother told me that if my other brother crosses my mind, just like you said, you ought to call him." He called his brother, and they have been talking every day since. I'm here to tell you, this is National Wellness Month. And you don't know, we talk about every year, we go to the gym, physical body, but guess what? Your mind as well, it needs to be well as well. So if somebody comes across your mind, a Kiwanian or family member, give them a call because you never know what a phone call can do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Preston. Now I'd like to call Pegram Johnson to give our guest. Yeah, give him.
All right. Good afternoon. We are lucky to have 10 guests with us at this lunch. And I'm going to ask if they would stand up when I call their names along with their Kiwanis hosts. And the first one, who was the very first person, not a member, to be here today is January Giroux, who is with Vittles for Vets. And where is January? Oh my gosh, they're hiding. And obviously, Bob Haberman is her host. Eric Kessler is here, who is the son of Reeve Kessler, right over here. And Eric's with VDOT. John Kanzler with GE is here as a guest of Don Witt. He's Don's neighbor. Robbie Hairston, a frequent guest of ours, is here at the back table. Lisa Thompson and Sarah Kincaid with Rescue Mission, who are receiving a grant, are at the back table, and their host is Lee Osborne. Alicia Woods with All Star Impressions is here with Eric Danielson. Where are they? Oh, right here, and she's a new employee at All Star Impressions. Tamika White with United Way is right here with Sherry and Dave Hartman. And last but not least, Cam Terry and Chloe Johnson with Lick Run Farm are also back here, and their host is Gene Ballendorf. So welcome, and hope you all will come back soon.
Thank you, and welcome to all our guests. Now I'd like to have Randy Myers to give there you are, to give our grant presentations. I think they're eager. They're in the wings over here.
Thank you. I'm Randy Myers, and we have 3 grants to give away today. First is going to be for the Fiddles for Vets group, and Bob Haberman is their sponsor, and will introduce our guest.
Wow, this is a dangerous place. I wonder if anybody knows a good lawyer around here. Victuals for Vets is dedicated to honoring and supporting the sacrifices of our nation's veterans in the Roanoke Valley by addressing food insecurity through its supplementary uh, grocery program, thereby increasing access to healthy food and essential household items. It's my pleasure to introduce uh, uh, January Garreau. I'm sorry why I'm she is the director of Victuals for Vets. And January, please come forward.
Hello. I just want to thank you all for having us and giving us this opportunity for the grant today. And just to let you know, a $600 grant for the veterans we serve in the Roanoke Valley, that will provide a new program that we're running this year where we're going to provide a $50 gift card to each of our veteran families towards Easter dinner. We've been able to do Christmas for years in the past. We just added Thanksgiving in 2025, but this year will be the first time we can do Easter. And what that does is that allows them to buy anything that they would like for Easter dinner, including things that we don't normally allow, such as pies and cakes and ice cream and that sort of thing. So that will provide 12 families in the Roanoke Valley with an Easter dinner card. So thank you very much.
Camera's not here. No camera today?
Don Witt. No. Get off of Facebook.
Oh, yeah. No.
Thank you very much. Next will be Jean Mollendorf, and she's going to introduce our guest from Southwest Virginia Agrarian Commons.
Good afternoon, Kiwanians. It's my pleasure today to host Cam and Chloe. And many of you may be more familiar with the common name, which is Lick Run Farm. And it's a lovely urban farm off of 10th Street. It's been my pleasure to watch the progress of the farm over the years. And I'm going to let Cam and Chloe come up and tell you what they'll do with the grant.
Thank you, Gene. Yeah, I'm Cam. This is Chloe. We farm a little more than an acre in vegetables over at Lick Run Farm on 10th Street. We're going into our 5th season growing in that place. It's the site of the old Kroll Nursery, if you remember that from back in the day. This will be our 3rd season running Farm Camp, which is a week-long half-day camp that we do with rising 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And that camp is led with 2 or 3 paid teen interns. So most of what this program needs is money to pay those interns with, right? We want to incentivize our interns to show up and be good counselors with that farm camp. And so that's what this money will do. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, last but not least is Lee Osborne, who will introduce the rescue mission.
Thank you, Randy. I'm Lee Osborne, and if there is an organization in the Roanoke Valley that probably needs no introduction, it is probably the Rescue Mission. I think they have served this community for over 75 years, and we're all aware, one way or another, of the service that they do, whether you participate in the drumstick dash or in other ways, volunteer there. I'm going to introduce Lisa Thompson, who is the director of development there, who will tell you what the rescue mission is going to do with our grant. But I wanted to give a little background briefly. That it's just when you hear what she says they're going to do with this. I first became familiar with the rescue mission in 1986 when I was chair of the Community Service Committee, which actually used to be a committee of the Kiwanis Club and one of the standard committees that Kiwanis International had. And they had a new theme of young children priority one that they had introduced. And we took grant proposals, and Matt Clark, I don't even know if Mac actually is still around, but he was an Equitable agent and a very active member of our club. He was very involved with the rescue mission. And he brought Joyce Sylvester Johnson, who had recently come back to take over, probably the first person in Lisa's current position. And they asked us to help fund a climbing jungle gym type thing to be built out of wood that was going to go into their main building, so kids would have something to do while parents were involved with being registered and stuff like that. And when we looked at the proposal, it was a lot more money than we even had in our whole budget. But being Kiwanis being what it is, we reached out to a lumber company, and they donated not only the wood but the service to build it. And so that was installed at the rescue mission without actually a dollar coming out of our Kiwanis service budget. But that's the kind of thing that happens when you put these things together. So I'm going to ask Lisa if she'll come up now and tell you what they're going to do with the funds now.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, as Lee was saying, this does tie back to his connection from 1986. We had a very old playground set behind our Women's and Children's Center. It was becoming dangerously old. And so, your grant to the rescue mission is going to pay for a new playground set behind our Women's and Children's Center. In 2025, we housed 146 children. So, we need those kids to be able to remember that they are still children, no matter where they're housed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy, for presenting our grants today. All right, now Bill Bestpit. Ask him to come up and give us a progress report on our strategic plan. That's kind of like a report card, and I think it's mine. So, Bill?
Well, I hate to correct President Joyce, but it is our report card, not hers, ours. I do have to give immediate past President Gene and President Joyce a shout out for keeping this plan in front of the board. Not necessarily every single month, but we talk about it very regularly. And I also want to thank all of the board members for making some helpful suggestions about how to improve and implement the plan. Now, I'm sure you know, the first quarter of our Kiwanis year ended on December 31. So this is the report for those first 3 months of this year. We have 31 different targets, 31 goals in our strategic plan, and we are on track to either meet or exceed those goals in 15 areas out of 31. We're somewhat behind the goal in 5, so we need to really concentrate the rest of this quarter on bringing those numbers up. But we're significantly behind on another 5, so we really need to work on those. 6 are lacking information, and that's mostly because they're things like selling Kiwanis tickets. You haven't sold any Kiwanis tickets yet, right? So these are things that are planned for the future over the next several months. The first two things on here are things that every one of us can help make sure we get to our goal. The first one is 75% of our members participate in committees or activities outside of Wednesday meeting. If all you do is pay your dues, you're a Kiwanian. If you come here regularly or regularly as you can for lunch on Wednesdays, you're a Kiwanian. If you join a committee or volunteer for a service project or come to a social project, a fun event, then your name gets marked for this one. We should easily be able to get to 75%. As of the end of December, we were about 35%. So it's almost halfway there, and we got 3 more quarters to go. The second goal is to increase our membership by a net 5 members. At the end of December, we had met that goal. We had 5 new members. At our last meeting, 2 members resigned. That's going to continue to happen. It always does throughout the year. So we need to continue to invite our friends, our family to come to these luncheons. We need to ask them, we need to do them a favor, as Don Wilson always reminds us, ask them to become a member of the Kiwanis Club of Roanoke. So help us reach these goals. Thank you.
I tried to take it for y'all. Sorry. He called us out on it. Anyway, we're doing a good job. Thank all of you for what you do to help us. All right. Announcements. Lee, do you want me to make this one? Where is Lee? Okay. So we have 2 weeks left for the foundation deal that we are doing for 106 or more to be in the drawing for next week. So you have this week. 2 people turned it in today. And 2 people turned in today. Yay, good for y'all. So 2 weeks today, this week and next week, and then we will have the drawing after that. We have Vic, Chef Vic. Would you like to come up and talk about KPAD? Yes? Or maybe you didn't know you were coming up to talk about KPAD. Oh, well, I skipped a few.
Thank you, President Joyce. I'm looking around the room right now, and the only thing I can think of is Uncle David wants you. He does. Uncle David, Dr. Dave over there wants you to make KPAD a success. We're standing on the shoulders of previous Kiwanian giants, and we need to keep that momentum going and providing some of the resources that we use to give grants to members of our community and to support scholarships and other efforts that this club makes. So what does Uncle David want? Uncle David is putting a call out for volunteers at this time to be ticket captains. And I have 3 out of the 6 that we need so far. And we're looking for 3 more people to volunteer to help us sell tickets and raise money. Now, what does a ticket captain do? Does that ticket captain sell tickets? Yes, we all sell tickets. But what does a ticket captain really do? Ticket captain's a head of one team of Kiwanians and works with those Kiwanians to sell as many tickets and raise as much money for KPAD as possible. This is a great opportunity for any of us that want to help, but it's also a great opportunity for our new members who have not had the pleasure of meeting Don Witt and Michael Brockta and David and everybody else and President Joyce here and working towards this goal. So if you're interested in being a ticket captain, please do reach out to me. You can see me after this meeting or send me an email. I'm definitely in the membership directory. And let's get that excitement going. When we launch KPAB, we're going to have a theme that we can all identify with, and let's have a great KPAD season. Thank you very much.
We also had the Martin Luther King, success we were going to do today, but we decided that we would wait until Courtney was here for her to tell us about that. We also have a membership committee meeting today at 1:35. And Andre, would you like to come up and tell us about the sweetheart? What's coming up?
Thank you, President Joyce. Every time I come up here to announce a fun committee event, I'm just amazed at how hard we all work and how much we do for our community. But then I'm even more dedicated to being sure we have fun too. And that's what I've come up to announce. The Fun Committee is planning a sweetheart dinner at Frank's on Bramilton. The date is February 25th. We're going to be in the private room there. So come and bring your sweetheart. If you don't have a sweetheart, we're Kiwanians. We're all sweethearts. But come and have dinner with us at Frank's. There will be no fee for it. It's just order from the menu, whatever you like. And I know a lot of you have been to Frank's, and you know there's pizza and there's sandwiches and there's all kinds of things to enjoy there, plus some beer, wine, whatever you choose. So I hope you will all plan to come and bring your sweetheart or be one of our sweethearts at Frank's on Bramilton on the 25th of February. 6 o'clock, yes.
And speaking of sweethearts, next week, Dan Chitwood is going to be here to start making Valentines. So start getting your juices and creativeness going about what you would like for him to do. He also will just have some here that you can buy without creating. So Dan, and I'm sure Diane will be here next week, set up out in the lobby. Now, Friday, we have a Zoom, an AM Zoom, a fun day at 8 o'clock. Is that what that 8 o'clock? Did you hear that? Somebody said you can't have fun at 8 o'clock. Joe what? Joe Gaither is in charge of this Zoom. And then we have a prayer breakfast at 9:30. So that's a little bit better. You can make that one. And that's Ken Briggs. There's an echo. Have y'all heard this echo over here? So, all right. We have a little time for brag bucks if there's any. If you make a short 30-second brag, I know Sherry's one and Bruce is one. So please come.
Thank you, President Joyce. I just have to give a brag on my guest today. We're so delighted at United Way of Virginia's Blue Ridge to have a newly installed Vice President of Community Impact, a really key role. That's what the heart of United Way is all about, is community impact. So no one is more important than Tamika White, who has moved from Florida to Roanoke to take on this important role. And we are so glad you're here, Tamika. And come back to Kiwanis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruce Swanson, and 50 years ago this month, my wife Julie and I first arrived in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. and we were volunteers there for a number of years, and then went on to our respective careers. So we went back to St. Croix to visit, and a lot of things have changed. A lot of things haven't. But it was really a wonderful place to be. We adopted 3 children. We were involved in all kinds of community activities. I was, God forbid, a Rotarian when I was there, but it was a great experience. So Hurricane Hugo in 1989 was sort of a universal experience across the Caribbean and into the States. And after the destruction in 89, I was helpful in finding an architect and rebuilding the steeple on our church in Frederickstead. And then 7 years ago, Hurricanes Irma and Maria destroyed quite a bit of the steeple. And a volunteer group from the American College of Building Arts, some Lutherans and some others, came down. And this last week, we went back up on the same steeple and did the same copper top and starting to replace the shutters. So it was quite a wonderful experience to come back. So Monday, I left St. Croix at 85 degrees. I went to Chicago for one night and a meeting at -5 degrees. And then I came back here, and I am very grateful to be back to Roanoke.
Hey, John, I want you up here.
Yep.
If you read the latest newsletter, Micah Brockta did a very good kind of praise of our Secretary Treasurer, Micah, and he basically set John as the glue that holds this club together. And at the end of that article was a Elmer's glue, if you will. But I thought it'd be good to have a photo that he could take with him as the glue that holds the club together. Oh, okay. That's enough.
I'm Ken Briggs and bragging on the Reverend Preston Tyler, who was here earlier. Last Wednesday, Reeve Kessler encouraged us to attend the Martin Luther King service at Hill Street Baptist Church on Sunday evening. A lot of Kiwanians were there. We were not disappointed. I understand that Preston, as a young man, learned to assimilate the voice of Martin Luther King Jr. And he did to get it again Sunday night. Go ahead and mark your calendars for next year. You need to be there to hear Preston and the other speakers who brought our community together. Kiwanian Joe Cobb spoke. He was eloquent. Joe sang 2 songs. What a voice, and just inspired us all. So mark your calendars and let's be thankful for the life of Dr. King. Sorry. Bill Bestridge again. I forgot to tell you one thing you need to know, so I had to pay a couple of bucks to brag on Michael Brockta, who has made it possible for you to see this in detail. You can't see it from where you are back there, but guess how you can do that? On the website, on the member section of the website. Okay, so if you have time, do take a look at it and let me know if you have any questions or ideas about how we can make sure we reach the rest of these goals. Thank you.
Now I'd like to bring up Reeve Kessler to introduce our program today.
Good afternoon, fellow Kiwanians. All of us have been there. You know, we had a day when we had a schedule in our mind, and we're going to travel up I-81 to go to a basketball game in Charlottesville, or a doctor appointment, or take visitors up I-81 to visit Natural Bridge, travel down I-81 to go hiking on the Appalachian Trail. And lo and behold, by the time we got to the destination, the day's schedule was already 45 minutes behind. And we had been in the I-81 accordion. fast, slow, stop, slow, faster, stop, a little bit faster, without ever having a for years. Most of us now recognize that help has arrived. And over the recent past, there have been obvious improvements along I-81 here in the Roanoke Valley. Those are continuing. There are more in the future. The person responsible for a lot of this happening is our guest speaker today, Dave Covington. He is the VDOT's I-81 Program Delivery Director, being responsible for the delivery of a $4 billion program focused on enhancing safety, reducing congestion, and increasing opportunity for economic development along the entire 325 miles of I-81 in the state of Virginia. Now, Dave he's a Virginian. He was educated at Virginia Tech and has a degree in civil engineering. Go Hokies, except on the nights when they're playing the Blue Devils. And is a licensed professional engineer in the state. He's here today to give us an update about the projects that have been completed, those that are in process, those that have been funded, and perhaps even some forward-looking things that have not yet been addressed. So here he is, Dave Covington.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to get my computer up here so I can give you a presentation on this screen over here. All right, that looks good. I appreciate the introduction. Just a quick survey. How many people are aware that there is a program in place right now to make improvements to I-81? Okay, a good portion. Y'all are well educated. A lot of times I ask that question and two hands go up. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about that program. And I thought it was appropriate to look back at where we've been.
Could you stand closer to
Okay,
the
thank
you can even hold it in your hand if you want to take it off.
This should be good. Is that good? Okay.
Talk and I'll tell you.
Okay. So I'm going to look back at where we've been, where we're at right now, and where we're going, because I think that gives the best impression of the I-81 program right now. So where have we been? The I-81 Corridor Improvement Plan was completed in December of 2018. So roughly 7 years ago. And then the General Assembly passed bills to establish the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program in April of 2019. And then the first projects that were deployed were the expansion of our safety service patrol vehicles. You've probably seen these vehicles out assisting motorists who are broken down on the side of the road or run out of fuel, and deployment of flashing chevron signs between July and September of 2019. This was the low-hanging fruit. These were able to be quickly implemented, relatively low cost with a high return on investment. So I thought the best way to demonstrate where we've been with regard to our capital improvement program is to actually show you some maps and show you some color on these maps. So this is looking down south at the Bristol district and what we have completed so far with regard to our capital improvement projects. So we have to date completed, I'm a little loud here, I believe it was 29 projects in the Bristol district, spread across the entire length of the district. And that included projects such as, our capital improvement projects, which are big construction projects. We have acceleration and deceleration lane projects and even widening projects. So a host of different types of projects that are really targeted at the study which identified what the problems were that we needed to solve. So as you see there, that's a lot of green on that sheet that is the completed projects. So moving up to Salem District, where we are here right now, you'll notice there are not nearly as many green boxes in Salem District for completed projects. And what's the reason for that? The reason is that in Salem District, we generally have much bigger projects. We have $500, $600, $700 million projects as compared to Bristol District, where we had smaller projects that could be delivered much more quickly. So when we move to the next slide or the next series of slides to show where we're at, you're going to see where those big projects are. Well, what have we completed so far? We've generally completed some acceleration and deceleration lane projects, and also those flashing chevrons. Those are those arrows and some of those challenging curves, like up in Buchanan, that you've probably driven through. So at night, you can't see anything through there. So we put in those flashing chevrons to help keep predominantly the tractor trailers on the road. So looking further north up in Stanton District, we do see some more green boxes here. So we had more projects here that were of less cost in Stanton District that we've completed. A whole host of projects, including acceleration, deceleration lane projects, more flashing chevrons, some safety improvement projects. So we've made good progress there. So looking at kind of our scoreboard. This is our project development process. This goes from project inception at planning all the way through a completed project to show you of the 65 capital improvement projects that we are currently delivering, where are we at with those projects? And what we find is that we don't have any projects that are currently in the planning phase. They've all progressed through that planning phase. They've all progressed through the preliminary engineering and environmental phase. And we have 8 projects right now that reside in the design phase. So our engineers and our consultant partners are helping us design those projects to move them into the construction phase. We currently have 18 projects under construction along the corridor, and we have completed 39 of those 65 projects. So we started in 2019 with nothing. We had no plans, we had no planning. All we had was data, and we had identified a list of projects. And here we are in 2026, in early 2026, and 39 projects are completed, and more projects are going to be completed here soon. So that kind of covers where we've been. And let's look at where we are. So looking back at Bristol District again, you're going to see a lot of orange boxes here. Orange means under construction on this sheet. Now you'll see one that's not orange. And the only reason is I forgot to change that to orange. So every project in Bristol District is either completed or currently under construction. And most of those projects will be completed this year or next year in Bristol District. So we are running out of projects in Bristol District. In fact, we have run out of projects. So we need to identify more projects. Moving to Salem District. And this is where you're going to see the vast meat of the program. There is greater than $2 billion worth of projects that have been completed and are currently under construction and upcoming just in the Salem District. So what is currently under construction? We have 3 ramp extension projects, exit 94, 105, and 162 that have recently gone to construction. 105 I'd like to highlight because we'll come back to that later, but that's a challenging one. That is right at the end of the New River Bridge. So exit 105 northbound, the Radford exit there, that's currently under construction. What we also have, no, that really, well, what we also have under construction that you probably have seen is from exit 137 to exit 141. We have widening both northbound and southbound to 3 lanes. And that project will be completed by this summer. So that's big progress. That's been under construction for a few years. I know it's been a little bit of a pain navigating through that, but in order to get better, we have to suffer a little bit of pain. A project that's under construction right now that you may not notice, although there is some barrier wall up right now, is from exit 143, the 581 interchange, north of the 220 interchange at exit 150. As another big complex project. That is beginning construction. Actually, we are currently reviewing the final design plans for that. So we will be issuing notice to proceed to them very shortly. So that will be under construction for the next 4 or 5 years. So please, I'm sure you all obey the speed limit in the work zone. I wish everybody else did as well, but just be aware of that. What's coming is rather significant. So we have 2 more, actually 3 more major projects that are coming online here shortly. The first is Christiansburg Mountain. Not first in sequence, but I want to work from south to north. So Christiansburg Mountain, we widened that many years ago for a truck climbing lane in the southbound direction. We didn't do anything in the northbound direction. Now's the time to do something in the northbound direction. So from mile marker 116, just south of the Christiansburg exit there, all the way up to exit 128 at the base of the mountain in Toronto will be widened to a 3rd lane. And then north of that, we have what is one of the largest projects in the entire program. Actually, right now it is the largest project or pair of projects in the entire program, is to widen from exit 128 at the base of Christiansburg Mountain up to exit 137, which will line up with the project that's under construction now that will be completed this summer. That is approximately $1 billion just in that one project, northbound and southbound. So big money is being spent here in the Roanoke Valley, and it's much needed. And we're going to see some relief hopefully soon. But just be aware that as we work through this construction process, it is going to be challenging. Looking further north again, up in Stanton District, we do have some significant projects under construction right now. We have what we call the Stanton Widening Project that's under construction, which is similar to the projects that I just mentioned here, widening northbound and southbound to a third lane through the Stanton area. Excuse me. We also have truck climbing lanes in the Weir's Cave area under construction. If you've ever driven through Weir's Cave, those steep grades, you're inevitably going to get behind a truck and be slowed. So we are adding truck climbing lanes there. What that means is that when we have a third lane, trucks are prohibited from the left lane, but only if we have that, only if we have that third lane. So those would be very significant projects. Looking further north, Harrisonburg. That's another very challenging project that just is beginning construction. We just awarded a construction contract on that. So construction will begin in the spring to widen all the way through Harrisonburg. In the future, we have a widening from Rafine to Fairfield from exit 205 to 200 in the southbound direction that'll be coming in the next couple of years. We also have 3 ramp extension projects around the Mount Sidney Rest area. And then another big project up in the Winchester area is to widen I-81 through Winchester, which people have been asking for many, many years. So a lot of progress has been made. We still have a long way to go, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel at this point. This is just a table of those projects that I mentioned that are upcoming. Some of them have recently moved to construction, so I've left them on the table so you can see that. Okay, now we're moving to where we're going. I mentioned, and it's very evident in Bristol District, we've run out of projects. We are running out of projects in Salem and Stanton District to design so that they can be shovel ready for construction when that time comes. So what have we done about it? In January of last year, we began what we call the 2025 I-81 CIP Corridor Improvement Program update. So we have currently 65 capital improvement projects, and I think it was like 148 operational projects that we've already delivered. But we needed to identify the next tranche of projects so that we can get started working on them to have them ready when the funding is in place to deliver those projects. So I think this was a very smart move by the previous administration. I believe that the new administration here in Virginia is going to carry forward with this same approach. So what we did was we went through a project identification process that was performance driven. So we're not looking at emotions here. We're looking at data. Where do we have problems? Where do we have congestion? Where do we have crashes? Where can we best spend the taxpayer dollars to make improvements? And the solutions have been prioritized using a smart scale like process. And I mention this because smart scale is the way that we identify all of our construction projects outside of this program. So our normal project identification process goes through a scoring process, uses data to select what projects move forward. And that's exactly what we followed here. But I want to caution that some of the data isn't appropriate for interstate projects like, pedestrian access and things like that. We're not building sidewalks on the interstate. So we did go through 3 rounds of outreach. Some of that was virtual, some of that was in person, some of that was virtual and in person. In April of last year, we held our first round. We had about 4,000 comments and 4,700 participants. And we met all up and down I-81 so that we made sure that representatives from each area could be involved in that. And what we found in the first round, this is back in April, is that there were 4 types of issues that were leading to 92% of all the problems. And they're identified right there. Congestion, truck operations, general safety, and speeding and aggressive driving. So we carried that through to the next round of public meetings. So we had the second round in the week of July 14th. Again, you can see the locations here, 2 in Stanton District because they have almost double the mileage of the other 2 districts, and then 1 in Salem and 1 in Bristol District. And this time we brought maps and we asked people, show us where you see a problem. Stick a pin in it. Stick a pin on that map. Talk to us. Tell us your feedback. So we sent out surveys, we gathered public comment information, and all this material is shared on our website, improve81.org, if you would like to go back and look at it. So from that feedback and the data that we have, we moved into round 3. Excuse me, I missed one. There's a round 3. I think I must have deleted the slide. But anyway, that's 4 meetings for round 2, 100 participants there in public. We had 1,136 comments online and 1,674 people attended virtually. Okay, I'd also like to point out that there is a fiscal constraint here. So the administration and the legislature gave us roughly $2 to $2.5 billion to work with. What we identified as a need along I-81 was probably 4 or 5 times that amount. So we really had to go through a prioritization process to say, okay, what is acceptable? What are the projects that are going to have the biggest impact and highest return on investment? That's what we carried through to round 3. So again, we had 4 in-person meetings, we had the maps, we had the surveys, we gathered all this data, and then we distilled it down based on these performance metrics. And I just want to go over these really quickly so that you know that where our focus was. It was in crash severity, crash frequency, person hours of delay, and person hours of incident delay. So this is what affects the drivers. This is what affects that accordion type situation that you drive through. You want to be driving through free flow at interstate speed, not having to slow down. That causes crashes. So we focused on those and came up with what is the next round of this program going to look like. And on the right side of the screen there, those are all the projects that the Commonwealth Transportation Board in this month in January voted to move forward. So it's a whole host of projects, but I want to point out what is here in Salem District. Now, this isn't going to look impressive, but you need to understand that from Christiansburg to north of the 220 exit there in Troutville is going to be all 3 lane. So that's your major commuters. You're now getting commuters from Daleville, Troutville, heading south to Roanoke, and certainly getting commuters from Christiansburg coming to Roanoke for work. And that is what's leading to a lot of the congestion, in addition to the trucks, the heavy trucks that are on the interstate. So in addition to that, we will be building a southbound acceleration lane at exit 162 in Buchanan, much needed. It climbs a grade, needs to get over that grade. We are building a southbound truck climbing lane between the New River Bridge and mile marker 103. Again, New River Bridge kind of sits down in that low area. Got to climb up out of there. So we need to extend that acceleration lane. And then the northbound truck climbing lane between exit 105 and mile marker 110. So this will take that acceleration lane that we're doing right now and extend it another 5 miles. So it gets through all those steep grades, and then we can then trucks can drive interstate speed. With that, I would just like to promote our website, improve81.org. That is kind of our one-stop shop for information. So I encourage you to please visit improve81.org, and you can learn anything you need to know there. And if you can't find it there, you can certainly contact me. My phone number or my email address are plastered all over that website, so it should be easy to find. So if we have a few minutes, I think I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has. Okay, let's start from left to right. Yes, sir. It is all state money, but what we are doing is we are leveraging TIFIA loans. So those are federal loans that we were authorized for up to $1 billion. And what that allowed us to do was get 1% interest loans in rural areas and 2% in urban areas to move these projects along faster. They will be repaid with state money. The program is funded through a fuel tax that was passed for all the localities that I-81 passes through, but the majority of the funding comes from our Interstate Operations and Enhancement Program, which are basically the fees that we charge to heavy trucks traveling the interstate, of which I-81 gets more than any other interstate in Virginia. Saw another one back here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great. Two birds with one stone. I love it. We had some more hands up. One over here. Yes, ma'am. Is it I-73? That's far out of my lane. It certainly will. Now, okay, I'm sorry. I repeat the question. So the question was about, is this program going to help extend railroad, and is the extension to Christiansburg going to help? The answer is yes and yes. So rail and the buses that you see on the interstate right now were funded through this program. So we have a multimodal component that includes, buses and rail, generally passenger rail. We are not funding the extension all the way to Christiansburg. That's being funded elsewhere. I think that does pull a lot of federal funding for that, because that is a massively expensive uh, expansion. But anything that we can do to get cars and especially trucks off the interstate is a massive improvement to operations and safety. Oh, we got a whole table full of questions here. That's great. Yes, sir. We'll go left to right. My left. Thank you.
Great job on the 81 extension between 141 and 140, 137.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
137, 140 is at least, and especially if you're going north from 137 to 140 at night.
Okay. So the work zone is confusing, or the okay, yeah. We are in a it's a big challenge. Anytime we're in a work zone, there's confusion, and we work with the contractor to try to make the signage and the pavement markings as best we can. The good news is that project's going to be done this summer. They're wrapping up all their transitions, the lane transitions. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious. Trucks versus passenger vehicles.
That's a good question, but it's approaching 30%. We're anywhere from 25 to 30%, depending on where you're at along the corridor. But it is a great deal of trucks. And, the problem is that we can't just tell the trucks no. You know, People need goods, people need commerce. We just have to find a better way to navigate the environment. Now, safety programs help, but a third lane plus safety programs helps a great deal, especially in the urbanized areas. You had a question, sir?
It's the status of VDOT law and establishing DC fast chargers as the transition to electric vehicles along the I-81.
Okay, so and I apologize, I should have repeated the other questions earlier. The questions were, what is VDOT's involvement with the installation of charging stations along the corridor? Um, Generally, we're not directly involved, but what we have tried to do, and I'm not extremely educated on this exact area, but I can tell you that there has been an initiative to rush through our permit process a little bit more quickly to make sure that because generally the charging stations are, privately owned, but permitting has become an issue. So anything that we can do to help, clear up the permitting for that, I know all the way up to the commissioner, who also has just been announced as he's going to continue to be commissioner under the new administration, is very much supportive of, anything that we can do to facilitate, expansion of the charging stations. Any other questions? One more question, I guess.
Seeing that access to quite a bit of data, it's reassuring. Can you give us a comparison between I-81's current performance, maybe some other interstate might tell you?
Yeah, I-66. Well, I don't know if I can make direct comparisons with data. I don't have that right now, but I can tell you that we have not yet seen great enhancements to the performance on I-81 because some of these projects are still under construction and underway. Now, we have seen localized improvements where we have done these ramp extensions. We've seen a fairly dramatic drop in the number of crashes, the frequency of crashes, the severity of crashes. But unfortunately, our data is a little bit polluted with the work zones because when people drive into work zones, well, we have multiple problems in work zones. One of them being that people tend to speed through our work zones and other people tend to not speed. It creates that speed differential. And also people get a little bit nervous when they drive into a work zone where the shoulders are gone and they're up against barrier wall. So from a data perspective, we don't yet have good data on how these projects are making improvements to Interstate 81, but we have seen localized data that shows significant improvements. What we saw on Interstate 66, and I'm only more of a passenger, similar to you are on I-66 than actively involved, is that when we created those additional lanes, the number of crashes really dramatically went down. And when you can drive down crashes, then that helps to clear that congestion. And when everybody can drive at a homogeneous speed along the interstate, that helps to eliminate that congestion and reduce crashes as well. So I can say that I do believe on I-66, we have seen significant improvement. Similarly, on I-64, towards Hampton Roads, where we widened Interstate 64 there, we've seen dramatic reductions in congestion and crash frequency, which has helped to convince the legislature and the Commonwealth Transportation Board to go ahead and three-lane that gap section as well, which is currently under procurement. Some of it's actually under construction now. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. David had asked for his honorarium to go to, I'm going to call it Mini Horse Sanctuary, but I want him to tell you what this is real quickly.
Thank you. This is very much appreciated. It's called Eloquist Mini Horse Rescue. It's in Highland County and it's just outside of McDowell. And one of the problems that we have is that, people get really excited about horses. And whether it's a mini horse or a regular size horse, they rush out and they get a horse. Then a couple of years later, they don't know what to do with it. And there's nobody to take it. And sometimes horses get abandoned. And, I want, and the people at Eloquist really want, horses to have a good life. So any donations there generally go to food for them, but also their care. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
We're going to mail that, the Mini Horse Sanctuary. So I was really touched with when he told me what that was, because, I'm a person. Okay, next week, our program will be Jonathan Pratt from Gainsborough YMCA, and Jeff Fick will be introducing him. So I have one advice for you guys. On the way home, get a loaf of bread and some milk. If you listen to the weather, it's from 1 inch to 22. So Be safe. What? More than that? Oh, by Burt's. It's more than that. So anyway, I would have some bread and bologna in the house with that. What? Oh, you know, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.